Hello, and welcome to POMA Does, a podcast produced by the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. We provide a voice for osteopathic medicine and share insights on issues important to osteopathic physicians, residents, and students, as well as those who embrace the osteopathic philosophy. POMA's mission is to promote the distinctive philosophy and practice of osteopathic medicine in Pennsylvania for our members and their patients. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello, and welcome to POMA Does, a podcast provided by the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. I'm Gene Battistella, DO, immediate past president of POMA, having the honor to serve the association as president from 2020 to 2021. I'm also leader of the influence pillar of our strategic plan, dealing with issues of advocacy and influence for our members and our patients across the Commonwealth. Our influence pillar is made up of three separate committees: the Government Affairs Committee, or GAC, and hopefully you've had the opportunity to view or listen to it. It's quite entertaining, but it's actually full of wonderful information, just letting you know what the committee is doing for our members and our patients across the state on legislative issues in Pennsylvania. We also have our second committee in the influence pillar is POMPAC, or the Political Action Committee. And the PAC really is the backbone that helps support the PPC and the GAC so we can get done everything we need to get done in the state with our legislature. And finally, the purpose of this podcast this evening is the PPC, or the Public Policy Committee. It's focused on POMA public policy and the process by which it's developed. I'm so thankful to have with us the two key people involved in the Public Policy Committee here this evening, and we'll just say a few things in a few moments. I'll introduce them right now. First, we have Joan Grzybowski, DO. She's the chair of the Public Policy Committee, and she's also a POMA president, having served wonderfully for 2018-2019. She really did a lot for the association and for us as members, and we certainly thank her for that. And she's done a fantastic job with the task force and now the committee of the PPC. And we also have Andy Sandusky, our POMA executive vice president of public policy and association affairs. Before we start the discussion, I was just going to give a little bit of background about what the public policy does. Public policy was first formed as a task force to develop and update existing and at times quite outdated public policy from over 20 years in the archives. And I think Joan's going to give us some background about that in a few moments. Once this task was undertaken, we really found out just how much there was to do and that could be done with this. So the task force was actually granted committee status, and it continues to develop and perpetuate past policy and develop new policies. So POMA's positions are known to our legislators, our people across the Commonwealth, our physicians, and our patients. Basically, that helps guide our advocacy efforts in and across the state. So to begin our discussion, I'm going to ask Joan, as chair of the PPC, to tell us a little bit more about the Public Policy Task Force and now committee, how you go about with your committee personnel actually forming public policy, and what that means for us as members and patients in Pennsylvania. You know, what does public policy really mean and do for us?
Gene, thank you very much for having myself and Andy Sandusky here. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about this committee. First, let's start off with somewhat of a definition of public policy. It's a policy that's a group of fundamental ideas that lay a foundation for the development of laws and concepts to guide us. This particular committee is new. It's only a few years old. It's composed of 12 members approximately, and I'm going to name them because they deserve it. So we have Seth Carter, the vice chair, Alexis Gates, Rena Chabra, Charmaine Chan, Jamie Nemeth, Richard Ortosky, Kelly Vandergrift, Noel Provenzano, Sajal Lakhani, Caitlin O'Brien, and Kaylor Gordon. So we do have some students involved in this, and they have a lot of interest also. So as I was saying, this is a new committee. It started as a task force, but was expanded to become a committee because of the perceived need for the amount of work, and that was needed to bring POMA's public policies kind of up to date, and also to develop policies for some of the new and emerging health issues that are presented in front of us every year. If you want a little bit more information on it, from what I'm told, or legend has it, that somewhere in the vault of POMA was a treasure trove of old policies covered with cobwebs and dust and dating back from God knows where, but done by who. But some of them I've seen, they were outdated. So we were asked to update that list of them, to go through them. And that was what our committee did with the help of Andy. Andy's knowledge in this particular area was so valuable to help steer us. Our knowledge of health and his knowledge of politics, it was a perfect pairing of a wine and dinner together. So it worked very well.
Talking about wine just brings a smile to my face here, Jen, but that's an excellent segue. So Andy, maybe you can take that a step further from your standpoint as Executive Vice President of Public Policy for POMA. So the committee meets, they deliberate, they go through old policies, updating old policies, and they've also worked on new policies. Tell us more from administrative standpoint and maybe a lobbying or a governmental standpoint, what that means for us, how that process continues and further develops, and what happens to these policies once they're developed.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Battistella. Appreciate the opportunity, and certainly Dr. Grzybowski, appreciate and enjoy working with you as we do what we do in the Public Policy Committee. So what we did go down in the vault. We did what we had to do to get those older policies. We developed them into a compendium. That compendium started at 4 pages of policies that went back 20 years. And Dr. Grzybowski and her team did yeoman's work to be able to bring all of those policies that were made throughout that 2 decade of time up to speed where they are in today's contemporary world. Some of them had to be sunset, but the vast majority of them were still relevant in some way, shape, or form. So rather than just scrap them, the Public Policy Committee did their best to change it, make it more relative to today. I can tell you now, the Public Policy Compendium is not 4 pages long, it's 9 pages now. So it doubled in size, and that demonstrates the work that has been done, not only bringing the existing policies to date, but also the new ones as well. We are constantly changing and constantly moving forward. And Dr. Grzybowski, I love the way that you encapsulate things when you compare this to the Government Affairs Committee. The Government Affairs Committee kind of works on different pieces of legislation. And from the outset, you gave a very good foundational piece and understanding of what public policy is. This committee, under your leadership, really kind of puts the overall policy, the 30,000-foot view, into play for both members, patients, legislators, staff, all external environments, external individuals can actually go on our website and they can look at our policies. If you go to POMA.org and you go to the advocacy slides and go down to policies and positions, that's where you'll find our Public Policy Compendium. So if you haven't, take a look at it. Let us know what you think. Dr. Grzybowski is wonderful at getting ideas to percolate and really bring different ideas to the forefront in making good public policy on behalf of POMA.
Excellent. Thank you. There's no doubt. And that's where POMA and committee structure has just really shined in the last number of years. I mean, POMA has always been a member-driven organization, association, but in particular, the last dozen or so, particularly the last maybe 6 to 8 years, I mean, it's just phenomenal, the committee level, just the dynamic, and it continued throughout the pandemic, and maybe even meeting much more frequently since we can do so easily on the virtual setting. But a lot of what's occurred between the Government Affairs Committee and the Public Policy Committee, the policies and the positions that have been established, actually POMA has become a go-to association for legislators in Pennsylvania. They actually come to us now with questions or anytime there's something health related on the Hill going on. And sometimes before they even come to us, before they talk to Andy or before they talk to one of our physicians or one of our lobbyists, they actually may go on the website and look, see what is POMA's position. And lo and behold, we have our compendium on there. So we're trying to build that and develop that. So the legislators can say, okay, POMA does have a policy on this, and then maybe if they want more background, then they come to us. That truly is an amazing and a beautiful thing for us as members and association. It's great to see that happen. With that in
Dr.
mind,
Battistella, if I could expand on, give you an example of the points that you're actually making. It also happens with your government affairs staff. When we have a bill now and we go and look at it, we can go to our policy compendium and say, does this fit? Did this overarching policy that the Public Policy Committee worked on and got through the process, does this fit? And can we make a position without having to go through the process of developing new policy or positions on legislation, because we already did the hard work? And so I've caught myself several times going to the Government Affairs Committee and saying, well, what I did not do is check our Public Policy Committee, I should say compendium. And we do have some positions on this that have already articulated where we want to go. And it's just continuing to grow and blossom. And I think, as you said, Dr. Battistella, it should be and could be and will be used widely as we continue to publish and share the positions to the external environments of POMA.
Thank you. Now, Jen, since you're the chair of the committee and you deal with obviously the committee, firsthand, any particular instances you maybe wanted to bring forth and maybe just our listeners, just so they have an example of what some of our public policy issues may be that we have talked about?
Yeah, I want to first say what really helped us develop this committee was kind of what a direction Andy gave us when he said, I don't know what to say to the legislators when they come to me with a question about a health issue. We need you all to help develop that. And that is just such a guiding point for us. With that in mind, knowing that they're going to come to him about what we're developing, it's given us a backbone for almost every policy, we develop. You have to remember history. It could be a vengeful enemy or a very wise sage. I prefer it to be a wise sage. So when we develop policy, we look at what has been out there already, maybe by the AOA or other major health organizations, that try to see what works, what doesn't work. So we look at that. We bring in the ideas of our individual members and their experiences. That all adds to the flavor and the evidence-based development of the policies we are trying to develop. For instance, one of our latest one, well, it was last year, I guess, it was the policies dealing with health disparities. We've never addressed that before, and nationally, that is such a big issue. I think POMA is one of the first states to put that on their public policy compendium. So it puts us way ahead, just like Philadelphia, was the first place, or America got its constitution, which guides America. So now we have Harrisburg guiding us in developing public policy. So there's a tie-in between the history of our country and POMA. It's important to acknowledge that also. But yeah, I think the health disparities is a big one, but there are so many others. We're talking today, one of our other meetings, about prior authorization. We discussed that, stating that we wanted to make it very simple for our physicians so we could serve our patients in a manner with more quality and with more ease. So we talked about that. We talked about vaping and e-cigarettes. That was a timely topic also. It was never before something that we had on POMA, but yet it was an important issue to make a statement about that. So those are some of the newer ones that we've developed. And every year something will come out that we will need to address, or that the Government Affairs Committee will think, hey, we want to hear from this group to get some ideas to put forward.
Certainly some great examples. And again, the key about all this is it's being formulated by Pennsylvania osteopathic physicians and staff and our association for our people in the state. We're not that we don't care, but we're not worrying about Ohio or California or New Jersey. Our focus, our charge is to protect the practice rights, the patients, and do the most goodwill we can for our members and the osteopathic physicians. And ultimately, the goal is for our patients across the Commonwealth. So that is the charge of the Public Policy Task Force, now committee, same with the GAC and all the committees under POMA. So we are the association, we are the committee structure that actually serves those needs for our members across the Commonwealth. So excellent points. Andy, from a lobbying, government affairs, government association, administrative standpoint, anything else you think our listeners really should know about public policy and POMA?
Yeah, I think it's important for folks to understand that while myself and our lobbying consultants, we bring different ideas back to the committee system, they are very much decided and driven by POMA members. We certainly can give the political context of an issue or a policy, but by and large, the docs rule the day. POMA members rule the day on the policy and government affairs positions that are taken by the organization. I think there's a lot of pride in that, and there should be a lot of pride in that. And, I go out of my way to make sure that I provide as many facts as possible. But at the end of the day, it's POMA members, it's DOs making those decisions on what's best for the Commonwealth, access to care, and patient care.
Joan, how about you? Anything you think I haven't brought up or we haven't touched upon that you think our listeners would want to know about the POMA and public policy?
Well, I want to say that our group, and along with the Government Affairs Committee, are a very passionate group and have deep feelings. It's almost the blood of POMA in a sense. It makes everything work. So as people want to get involved in this in the future, I urge those with a passion for it to come join us, bring ideas and help. It's a place for you to make a difference.
Well said. I mean, as you introduced the names of all the committee members, that's really a sticking point with POMA. We really want all facets of membership and our people across the state to be involved, from the student level through the intern resident level. We try to have an intern or resident on every committee, a student on every committee. And then we also try to mix people from across the state, because we know what may be important in Philadelphia, maybe it's not quite as important in Pittsburgh or Harrisburg. And same thing, if you're early in practice or late in practice or getting ready to retire, everyone has different issues that they're dealing with. And we try to have that breadth of knowledge for the benefit of all. So certainly the Public Policy Committee is a shining example of that. And the work they do is phenomenal. So I too would want to thank the members of Joan's committee. They've done a wonderful job. And obviously POMA staff, for everything that all our committee structures do, POMA staff brings it all together and gets the final product out so we can get done what we need to get done. So any final words before we wrap up this podcast? It's been certainly an excellent conversation. And just like many of our other podcasts we've been involved with, I'm sure we could talk ad nauseum, but I'm sure our listeners probably like having that finite time period where they know that they can get in the car or sit on their phone and watch the video, because we do have it in both formats, that they know they're not going to be tied down for hours on end, that they can get this snippet of information and find out what's going on. So any last words from either of you? Or I've already asked that once, but I'm going to ask it again.
I'll just ask that people get involved, speak their minds to their local politicians. All politics is local. Make a difference and come be with us if you would like to be. We would love to hear your input. Thank you.
That is a great final comment there, Jen. We can do a lot of good in Harrisburg, GAC, but the grassroots level, the district level, the local level is really where it's at. Meeting with your legislator at the local level. And again, if you have a topic or issue you need to discuss with your legislator, get on the website, go to the Compendium, see what our position is. Because again, if you're walking to legislators, certainly you can go and represent yourself, but if you want to speak what your association and your medical association, the POMA stance is, you can provide that information as well. So that would be most helpful. Andy, any thought, any last words?
You stole my thunder. I was going to say, please take the time to educate yourself when you have the opportunity. On our website, we put a lot of information on there. We send out a lot of information so that you understand and know what we're doing with your dues dollars when it comes to public policy, government affairs, and everything on the advocacy side of things. So thank you. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you. So besides the podcast series, obviously we have this one, which is our public policy podcast. And like I mentioned earlier, we just did the Government Affairs Committee podcast. There's others to follow, and there's already been several more that have been done prior to this. We're dropping POMA as a podcast typically about every 2 weeks, so please, stay tuned and look for those. And we always have information on our website, the POMA app. If you don't have it, it's fantastic. It's easy to navigate, and you can get on those sites and find out anything you need to know. And you can always call POMA when in doubt. So again, thank you for participating. Thank you for enjoying this podcast, whether virtual or audio. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of POMA Does. Be sure to subscribe to POMA Does wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tell your friends and colleagues to tune in. Learn more about osteopathic medicine and POMA on our webpage, www.poma.org, and join the conversation on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, or email us at poma@poma.org. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time for another edition of POMA Does.